Mixing with Mike plugin of the week is the UA-Softube Chandler Limited Curve Bender. A mouthful, but an amazing hardware piece. And what this was, if you kind of go back and take a little bit historically, a step back on how this happened, Chandler Audio makes really, really high-end audio gear. This is basically a transformation of the EQ circuit in the TG12345 console from Abbey Road Studios. This was a creation of Abbey Road Studios in the 1960s as a transition to solid-state technology away from the Red console, which was based primarily in tube technology. This made it easier to maintain. And they spent quite a bit of time going through it and designing it. So the EMI engineering team kind of put all this together. In around 2007, Abbey Road contacted Chandler Limited to do a recreation of this EQ that would be released, and they called it the Curve Bender. Now, if you actually go back, there was a passive mastering EQ that was created, and this is different, called the Curve Bender. That was the RS56 EQ, and this is not an emulation of that. This is the actual channel inboard electronics, and what Chandler Limited did was they went back and they took the original design, added an extra band. So if you basically look here, you have a low frequency band, which on the original was just a shelf on the EQ, and they gave you peak and shelving capabilities. And you see the white frequencies that you see here are the original frequencies, and the yellow ones are ones that are added. So what they did was they added frequencies. So there's a total of 51 frequency selections on this 4-band EQ. With an option for peak or shelving on the top and low end, which is a modification from the original console, and then a duplication of the mid-band frequency area, only they added frequencies. So on the original, there's only one single band that's in there. They also added high-pass, low-pass filters, which were not part of the original circuit of the TG12345. So there were some modifications, some features that were added in, and so it was not meant to be a perfect copy of the original. It was actually meant to be an enhancement of the original that kind of brought it into the modern age, and part of the sound that made so many of the Beatles records from like Yellow Submarine kind of forward into that sound, that character sound, that solid state sound that was a big part of Abbey Road Studios. So in taking this, let's kind of go through some of the basics of the setup here quickly, do some audio examples just so you can kind of get an idea of this beast. So there are many people who have the hardware versions of this, and they're crazy. They're ridiculous sounding. Used in mastering, there are some things that are added in here that are different from the hardware. So this is sort of an emulation of the Chandler Limited hardware EQ, which is a recreation of the TG12345 going back to the mid-60s through early 70s in Abbey Road Studios, those consoles. So, however you want to do the math on that, that's the basic setup here. Softube, working in conjunction. This initial release is on the UAD platform. So what you see here is you have 4-band EQ. It's duplicated for left and right. You can link both channels or both sides, or you can make them independent. You could take them in or out together or independently. And unlike the original hardware, it actually works in mid-side mode. So this is something that is not part of the original hardware, the mid-side mode. So you can work that way as well. When you work with linking channels, if you make an adjustment on one side, for example, and then you link the channels, the right side will join the left side settings automatically. So be conscious of that. If you're going through optional settings on either side, that the right side will automatically slave to the left side if you link. Just be conscious of that if you're kind of working in multi-mono, so it won't preserve offsets in that case. So you'll have to keep them independent of each other. Okay, so let's just kind of go start here where we would start. So what we have here at the very beginning is a high-pass, low-pass filter. They are 60 dB per octave, so they're pretty soft in terms of that. Frequencies ranging, although you see lines that go in between, the frequency selections are just the frequencies that you see here. So that goes all the way up to 320 hertz, and on the high end down to 2K. So that's actually really good in terms of good control over the full bandwidth of it. The original frequencies are in white here. So if you see 150, 500, 800, 1.2, 1.8, 2.8, the ones in yellow are added frequencies that were not part of the original, but using the same design concept. The midband is duplicated here, so you'll see many frequencies picked up. So this one picks up as like a high midband from 800. So all these white frequencies here are duplicated on this side, and then it continues onward and upward from there. So on the original, there was a 4.2 and 6.5 selection that was on the single band. Now it's split off onto here. So you have some overlapping frequencies, just so you're conscious of that. And then you have the high frequency section. Any one of these can be taken to their out position. Now this can be done in a couple of ways, because there's also an out selection here. So you could take the frequency selection out of the circuit or the band out of the circuit in either way, and then you got the shelving EQ on that end. This is your boost cut. Now the boost cut gives you plus minus 10 dB. It's not clear to me why the numbers are plus minus 5. There is with a normal times 1 circuit. So I'll just kind of go over here, the multiplier. Under normal circumstances, you get a normal, let's just say you have a bell curve EQ, a parametric EQ kind of set up here, and you do a boost here. If it's selected here, you would get the 1 dB boost. If we move it up, or 2 dB boost in this case, and if we move this up here to 1.5, it would add another 50% onto that. So if that was 2 dB, then it would be 3 dB total boost. And it narrows the Q. So this gives you the ability to actually do more of a tone control type of thing, where you work in a specific sound, and I'll kind of show you a little bit of this on the guitar stem here. I have 3 of these set up, so I'll just kind of show you an overall overview of the sound as it is, and then how you can use that to kind of shift some tonal quality and character. When you have output control, so whatever your gain structure is going plus or minus and all of that, you also have an output gain structure. If you're in mid-side mode, now you can control the balance of mid and side signals. So not all mid-side processors do that. Sometimes the output levels do not give you mid-side output, they give you stereo output or left-right output. So you want to be very conscious of that when working with this. But here, if you go to mid-side processing, then this becomes a mid-level and a side-level control. So all the way through the circuit. So you would have mid EQ and side EQ for mid-side EQ type of work. Great for mastering. So let's zoom out here for a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed an overall master mix here, just to kind of give you, let me just kind of cue up to a section here. I'm going to take away the vocals just so I can talk over it a little bit. And so we'll just be working with drums and guitars here. So in the original design, what we had is a 150. So if we do a little bit of a boost, this would be more of something that would be akin to the original signal. But we also have the ability to kind of pop that into a bell curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a nice low-end thump here, boost on that for the kick drum. And if I want to focus that a little bit more, so there's an example of where I can use the narrower Q there to kind of help to enhance that. It gives me also a little bit more boost on that end. And let's just go right to the top end. Go up to like maybe, we'll kind of keep this as a shelving EQ and do a little bit of a boost here. See how far down. This is like at 20K. Hear how crystal clear that air is up on the top. And here I'm just going to do like just a touch of a mid-range dip down here. High pass filter there. So you can really hear, like, this is like a mastering grade EQ, really. You know, like the clarity and the openness of this is just ridiculous. Really, really, you know, really gorgeous. Something where you can go in and you know, put something on that sounds very musical. And I think that's maybe the best way to describe this. I'm going to shift this frequency up a little bit higher. All right, I'll get a little message there. Got a lot of plugins going on here all at once. So this is actually, just to show you that's actually a pretty amazing sound, and just from a mastering mix bus perspective, we can work on it that way. What I want to show real quickly is, or a bit quickly here, is I'm going to bypass that and go to just working on the drums here for a second. So I'm going to work on the drum bus, and I could do a lot of the similar things that I was doing on the mix bus. I'm going to try a few things to see if I can enhance the drums and then go to the guitars and kind of work a little bit more with the sharper Q, just to show you how you can kind of really dig in some tonal character in there. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a high pass filter here, and obviously this is also including the bass. I'm going to try one other thing here on that kick drum. Rather than do this, I'm actually going to do a little bit more of a broader boost down on a shelf, and see if I can get something a little bit warmer. And you could hear how that, that opens up the sound there. Let's go over quick to the guitars here, and then I'm going to bring this in here just to kind of show a little bit more of a character boost, especially in the mid-range bands here. So we'll take this out for a second. So I could give it like much more character there with the sharper Q on this, and you can hear this in and out with the drums. So just to give you an idea what this is like built in and out. So I think you can see here how that, that classic solid state circuitry from that era, and so many of the records that were done in the late 60s, early 70s that had a really edgy but kind of ballsy, low mid sound and character, the Transformers, the whole design of it, really amazing. And it's an all-time classic, and an amazing job done by Chandler to recreate that character sound in hardware form, and also an amazing job on the part of Softube to recreate that in plugin format. They're so good at bringing back some of these amazing vintage emulations and bringing them to life in plugin form. So this is a great one, a unique one, one of a kind in the plugin world. At least as this goes, the Chandler Limited Curve Bender. Really, really, really amazing emulation on the Universal Audio platform. And that is the plugin of the week.